Start the recording. All right, so we'll begin the Fast Forward Charter High School Board of Trustees meeting on June 20th, 2024. We'll go around and do the welcome. I'll introduce myself. I'm Alex Garrett, the Vice Principal. Ryan,
Yeah, Ryan Marchant, Business Manager.
Lynn,
Lynn Hobbs, board member.
Teresa,
Teresa Olson, board member.
and we'd like to excuse Dr. Richard West and Frank Stewart from today's meeting. Anything that has needing approval will be sent out and approved via email electronically.
Perfect.
So Ryan, looks like you're up.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Alex. Well, Teresa, and Alex, this is information's for you because Lynn and I have already reviewed this in a meeting prior to this one in our audit committee meeting, but it's just a financial review for July through May. So basically 11 out of the 12 months of this fiscal year that we're in. I'm not like a lot of times because we've discussed it in our audit committee meeting and we have a lot of approvals to get to today. I probably won't spend a lot of time on it unless you have questions, Teresa. I have answered any of Lynn's or if Alex has any questions, but we will be approving a final budget here and probably that's our next item. But fast forward again is not much has changed since our last financial, which was a month ago. So we're just moving forward. We're in a good financial position. We're anticipating having a very successful year again at Fast Forward, both academically and financially, and we're looking forward to a very successful campaign in 2025. So there's several items in our budget that we've kind of we're over just a little bit. We've exceeded our total budget. We're just kind of leading into our next item here. We've spent approximately almost 110% of our approved budget, and we're only about 92% of the way through the year. So we originally approved a $3.6 million budget. We're going to come back and ask the board to approve a budget that's for the final that's about $1 million higher than that based upon, and I'll show that to you here in a minute, but just know that because we're kind of in this cycle now and I think we'll start seeing that level off in 25 where we've been in such, if you want to go down one more page, one more there to the graphs. Yeah. If you look at look at that growth cycle that we've been in, that just kind of tells you the story of why we always have to come back and approve a bigger budget. Just simply because we run a fairly conservative budget and we hire to that. But then once we find out that we're going to have more students, then we get the students and then we hire to that. That's kind of the methodology there. But it also gives us something where we are kind of needing to come back because we've exceeded the original budget. Now we come back to the board and ask for more. So you can see our cash position there has steadily increased over the last 6 months. And then we've obviously outspent our budget by we're 110+%. So any questions on any of that? Those are some of the highlights and really just kind of a precursor to our next conversation, which was our first item that we'll approve. Does anybody have any questions on the overall financial situation with the school right now?
I do not.
Okay, thanks.
No.
Good. Then let's move on to the next item, Alex, which is the FY24 final budget. That's it. Yep. Why don't you go down to page 5, Alex? The last page. So essentially what you're looking at here is our financial statement that you just reviewed with the $3.926 million of expense. This is for 11 of the 12 months, so 92% of the year. We've got essentially a $936,000 net income. The thing that we're missing in that number to build up to our final budget, of course, is June's revenue, which is about 430, June's expenses for payroll. Then we also have July and August payroll accrual, and then July and August health insurance accrual, plus a depreciation expense. Now, all those numbers are padded somewhat, but I do that on purpose so that we make sure that we are covered in our expenses for our final budget. So we always approve a budget that's actually over what our final spend's actually going to be, but we want to make sure that we have enough margin there. So you can see for today, what I'm asking the board is to approve a total final budget for FY24 of 4.941, 361,000. Or excuse me, 361. So we have a total net income. You can see after that, 351. Don't pay a lot of attention to that because that's going to change quite a bit significantly. That number will be significantly higher once we convert our books to GAAP. Again, this is looking at it on a cash basis. This as if we paid everything in cash. So again, we're asking for a $4.9 million budget to be approved. Does that methodology work for everybody? Does everybody kind of get where I'm coming at there? Does that make sense as far as I'm giving you what our actuals are for the first 11 months out of the year, and then I'm just kind of building into what it's going to look like for the next month?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Any up for discussion? Any discussion?
No, I think we understand it perfectly.
Ryan, when we did our initial, I noticed on the 2025 you have kind of like our enrollment that you're basing it off of. Do you remember what the
Yeah.
enrollment you based 24's like uh budget around? Do you remember off the top
I
of
think
your
it was
head?
four. I think it was four. Was it 425? I think it's 425.
Okay, cool. Cool. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So then with the extra kids and everything,
Yeah.
we see the growth in what we're getting from the state and what we would have to spend. So
Yeah.
that makes
The
sense.
additional amount, 425, I believe is what we did. So,
While we're on that subject, Alex, what do you look for next year's student count? I mean, I know we had a number, or how we looking on that?
So I think our goal is to maintain where we ended the year at and try to carry that as our stable number. Um,
Okay.
so right around that 500 mark is
Okay.
kind of like I think it's the best of both worlds. Like we can service all the kids as best we can. We hit our financial numbers. I think it's a really good um, number, and I know that's Jill's goal. With graduation, we did graduate 186 kids, so we're looking to fill 186 slots as well. And so with that, we already have 100 kids on the wait list, ready to be brought in at the beginning of August. And like always, we have kids signing up almost every single day for our wait list. So I believe this coming year, we'll be able to start easily at Ryan's predicted 450 for the budget, and then we'll be able to maybe even hit our target number before October 1 for the school year. So
All right.
the demand
All
for
right.
us is just always there. People are always wanting to come to our school. So it's a great, not problem, but
Yeah.
it's a great thing to run into for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
The question I have for the board, Teresa, I guess, Lynn, how would you want to handle this as far as the vote for this? We are going to need to send it out to the other two members for an approval, which I don't anticipate there being any problems. They can always call me if they have questions. Do you two want to go on record as voting for, or do you want to wait for the email? How do you want to handle it?
I
I would,
personally, I would think that we ought to just the two of us vote on it, and then let them know that we've approved it, and then it gives them the opportunity just to send in
Okay.
a thing and approve it. I don't know, but whatever you
Yeah,
think
let's do
is
that.
best.
Alex, you want to handle the vote?
Yeah, sure. So is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve a final budget of $4,941,361.
Perfect.
I
And
will
then,
second that motion.
perfect. And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, next item. Do you want to see if you can flip that one for us, Alex?
Do you want to start at the top, Ryan? Oh, I might have lost you guys. It might be my internet that's
Well, Alex doing
unstable.
that. This is our FY25 budget. But you can see it's based upon 450 students. And what I've kind of done here is estimated our total revenue base. Most of it's based off what the state has actually already sent us as a legislative estimate. So they will start the funding on these estimates based in July. And then there will be a true up between November and December, like there always is, based upon where our numbers actually come in. Now, if they come in less than 450, we're good. If they come in more, the law states that it's 80 prior year ADM plus growth. So we always pick up the growth. Let's say we come in less than 450 at 400, then we won't see that come off until the FY26 school year, if that makes sense. So I think this is the base budget that we're kind of looking at. We'll kind of build up from here, but you can see our total spend is about 5.5 as far as what they're estimating. And then I've got the back end numbers that I've kind of put in that just that kind of track separately, like Title I, IDEA, CTE is a big one, TSSA. But you can see once we throw in all of these add-ons, so between what the state's given us at 5.5 and then a couple 100,000 of add-ons, you're essentially at a $5.7 million revenue. And then below that are as much detail as we possibly can give for our teachers. These are signed contracts. We've gone through that process. And now this is the group of individuals that we have that will be running the school next year. And you can see exactly what everybody's making there. Again, I would encourage you to review that. You can keep this document. Obviously, you have it in your emails, review it, send me questions. It's public information. So, we want to make it and be as disclose as much as we can to the board and to the public. Then below the line there, you can see our total payroll costs are once you throw in the all of the add-on and the load that goes with that, our total payroll is almost $4 million. You can see that over to the right there. So, and then below the line there, as far as payroll goes, is just most of our other operating expenses that we have. And again, these fluctuate. So these are, again, are estimates. Been doing this a while, and it's hard really to predict exactly what's going to come up through a year. So we just want to make sure that we do have the vast majority of the areas covered, and we're trying to do as well as we can as far as making sure that it's the number that needs to be in there. But there is always some discrepancy that's in between what actually comes in and then, of course, what we planned on here. So you can see total expenditures before debt service is 4.379,580, which leaves us a net income of 1.32. Mortgage payment is used to be material, but it's almost immaterial now. It's 160,000 for the year. That's 2.8% of our revenue, which is really good. I will tell you that a lot of charter schools are well north of that number, but we're in a fortunate situation there. It leaves us with a net income of 1.163 after debt service. So the total spend for FY25 budget is $4,539,504. Now that's based upon this preliminary budget. Lynn brought up a good point and something that once we get a little more clarity on the issue, we're buying some portables that we're under contract for, and those will probably be delivered sometime in September. Once we have the final invoices for those, we will come back to the boards probably sometime in November-ish with a new updated budget that will include the portables. But I do believe that we will be able to fund portables out of this year's free cash flow. I don't think it's going to extend above that. If it does, of course, we've got the resources to do it. So I think that we'll be able to pay for our portables this year just out of this year's cash flow.
Nice.
So the ask is essentially, here's our budget for this year. Total FY spend is 4.539, based upon 450 students. Our staffing pretty stable, but it might change a little bit as far as um, some spots. We might add to those numbers a little bit, but again, we usually do come back and we'll do a mid-year budget, and then at the end of the year, we'll probably do actually one more final budget. But this kind of meets what we have to do legislatively before the board to make sure that we have a budget passed before the end of June. Any questions?
No,
No.
All right,
Okay.
is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the budget for the year 25-26 or 24-25.
Perfect. Is there a second?
Excuse me.
I'll second that motion.
Awesome. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, where are we now? Audit committee training and approval. Okay. Again, audit. Len and I talked about this prior to coming on here, but we need to make the board aware that according to R277-103-4, this is our audit. We're the audit committee, also the finance committee. We're the audit committee for the board. And just what our role is, and then what the board how the role of the audit committee is interwoven with what the responsibilities are of the general board members. So Teresa, or a couple of, Rich, and our other board members, and how we kind of integrate that with them. There are some things that we need to do. So there is some online training that we'll be talking about here in a minute, but our board needs to, there is some through the Utah State Auditor webpage. And maybe you could go to that when you get a minute, go to the Utah Auditor webpage, Alex, and we'll show the training portal that's on there. But let me kind of tell you what our responsibilities are. We're in charge of the audit, the annual audit that we have to get, which means we meet with the auditor, we schedule the auditor, we make sure that the audit progresses along, and then if there are any findings within the you go to, I think, local governments there, or training, or you probably know where you're going. Training right there, training page. You can see it right below there. If there are any problems, yeah, right there, training. Then we'll resolve that within the audit committee, and then we will also, if it's significant enough, we'll bring it to the board and let them know. Of course, we'll discuss the audit with the board as well. Lynn and I meet prior to each board meeting for about 30 minutes to discuss the financial statement, and to make sure that a financial statement is presented and that it's in accordance with, how it needs to be presented with the chart of accounts with the state of Utah. And that if there are any concerns that Lynn has, he has full rights to, bring that to the board and bring any questions that he has to me as well. So that is the purpose of that meeting. So there are a couple things within our webpage that we need to have. And Alex, I don't know if we have this or not. I think I sent an email about it, but do we have Lynn's and my information on our webpage?
We do, but I'll get it put into Andy Lorimer didn't get back to me yesterday, but we'll get it put with the audit committee, and it'll have your name and email.
Oh, perfect.
Right there with it. So it is accessible and findable on our website. It's just under it's under this our team section, but we'll make sure it's housed on this as well.
Okay, good. While you're there, can I have you click on the state fraud hotline? So this is also on our webpage, and this is also another requirement that we have to have, and make sure that the board's aware that we have a that within Fast Forward Charter High School, they can go to Lynn, of course. They can come to me with any questions, but Lynn's probably more independent than I am, so we need to have an absolute independent, someone that can, if someone has a question, they can contact the state auditor or the internal audit really, it should probably be, we should probably list, I think maybe we ought to change that to the internal audit USBE. Can we do that? So let's change this instead of the state auditor webpage. Let's have it go to the internal hotline at the USBE.
Yeah, I'll get
Yeah,
that added.
yeah, that's where it needs to go. This is probably sufficient for now, but I think the USBE internal audit hotline is probably more appropriate. So those are the things we need to do. You need to know that we're a functioning committee, that we do meet, and that we're aware of what our responsibilities are. So we don't need to approve that, but we do need to approve the audit committee for next year. So right now, currently, Lynn and I are on it. As a board, you need to decide who you want to continue on that, and I guess you guys can have that discussion. But I kind of just, if you guys are comfortable with Lynn and myself still being on it, Teresa, I don't think Rich would have
I
a
am.
problem with it. Yeah, my suggestion to the board would be simply that Lynn and I stay on the audit committee, and we
I would
just hold
agree.
we just hold the committee as is for the next fiscal year. I guess that would be the vote.
Is
So
someone willing to
I'll make a motion to maintain our financial committee as they are with Ryan and Lynn.
Perfect.
Yeah,
No,
in those
Good.
positions.
That's great.
I'll second it.
Perfect. And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Did that take care of 5 and 6 then, Ryan?
Yeah, I think
For
so.
4 and 5?
Audit committee training, yes. Let me just make sure I got the audit committee
Yeah.
training. Yeah, there is a training on there, and Lynn will have that. Well, I'll find that audit committee training. I think you were on the right. Go back to that state office of, yeah, and then go to the training, and then there's just the board member training. I think is where it was. Governmental nonprofit corporation board member. I'll bet that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can find the one, or if you want to send it to me, Ryan, and I'll make sure it gets sent out when we send out this.
Do you want to find it and send it out, and then
Yep.
send it to me first. Let's discuss about it,
Yeah.
so we can send it all out in one email as a package.
Yep.
So let's
That
really
sounds
work on
good.
that, on what things we need to get done and what needs to all go out so that everybody can get the training done that they need.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, so that's 5 and 6. So I guess that puts us to fiscal policies and procedures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can see on our webpage there, we have under financial policies, we have our own separate tab, of course, that people can go to. You can see all of our financial reports. And then we also try to upload the financial report that was just presented to the board. We try and put that here as well.
It's
They're probably in a different spot.
yeah, I'll start having Andy upload them here.
Okay, puts them in a
They
different
get
spot.
tucked in with our board documents as well because there's a separate page for that, but I'll make sure they end up
Yeah,
I'll
okay,
have
that's
them
great.
upload them for the last couple of years.
Okay, perfect. So then we have the financial policies and procedures, and there weren't any changes from the last year, but I am just coming to the board because it is required that we actually have policies and procedures in place and that the board reviews them and approves them every year. So if you've reviewed them in the last year, then you have basically seen our financial policies because they haven't changed any. So if they're, I would recommend to you to be familiar with these. I know in the past we have kind of reviewed a policy in our board meeting, and we probably need to get back to that as far as just reviewing whether it's a financial policy or whether it's just a general school policy. We should probably get back to reviewing those. I know we've reviewed several of these over the years, but I guess if you haven't reviewed them, maybe you have, it's been a little while, please go back and review them. But we do need to get those approved for the FY25 school year. So I would look for an approval on that unless anybody has any questions.
Well, I would move that we, I guess that we approve the, uh, policies and procedure guide that we have in place for this coming year. Is that what you basically
Yeah,
need?
yeah, essentially, yeah.
I'll make a motion to second that.
Then all in favor?
I,
I,
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so um the fraud risk assessment. Lynn and I also talked about this. And I think there were a couple items that we decided that we wanted to check that we think we could probably be in compliance with. Um, so I think what we'll do is Alex, part of this email that we send out, that'll have these items. And let me make notes of these. Um, but we're gonna try and do, this is the fraud risk assessment. The Utah State Auditor has every school, every organization complete this report at the end of every year just to kind of see what your risk level is for fraud and abuse. And it asks these series of questions. And the vast majority of stuff we have in there are some things that we don't have, like number 3. Um, but number 4, I think number 4 is where we decided we probably could get that one pretty quick. And I think we've talked about that one in the past. So we need to have, I swear we have a statement of ethical behavior, but we're going to draw one up and we'll just have the board members sign it. Alex, do you remember if have we done that?
I don't think we've like sent it out. I think Jill does have one. And if we, does it need to be like a physically signed copy, or could we do electronic signatures?
Electronic.
We can do
you
electronic too.
could,
Okay.
yeah.
It's basically just something being signed committing to the ethical behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just supposed to do that annually, so, that'd be slick to do.
Yeah. Is this for the coming year? So would it be good to have it, or do you want it done before the end of this for this
I
fiscal
think if,
year
I think if you just start it, for this coming,
for 25?
Yeah, let's start it
I
for
think
25.
that'd
Yep.
be,
I'd
So
rather
then we
have them,
should
I'd rather
then
have them signed before than
yes.
after the
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah, we went through the whole
Yeah.
year and then signed it.
Right,
Um,
right.
yeah.
so maybe in our will we have an August board meeting?
August or
Start
September, yeah.
August. So in that first one, we could have it.
I think that'd be great.
That would work. Okay. Perfect. I'll make sure we get that added as a document sent out, and then we can discuss it in the board meeting stating everyone participated. So
Okay, sounds
So I
good.
think the 2 action items would be the statement that we just talked about, and then the board training that we need to find the links to and
yes.
send that out. So those are the 2 things. But um, we do have pretty much. I mean, we don't have an internal audit function. I mean, when they say internal audit function, I'm not exactly sure what they mean as far as, because we don't. Some of these big districts do have internal audit, but that's why the State Board of Education has their own internal audit department, because then they can look at anywhere they want. And they do. They do. But we do have an audit committee, obviously, that functions for that. So we score 335, which is, we have a fairly low risk level. And then if you scroll down the next page, Alex, you can kind of see some of the basic separations of duties that they require us to have. We have all of those in place on some degree, and we kind of look at those in different ways, but just so that the board knows, and Lynn and I probably ought to talk about this in one of our next meetings, but our internal controls are, I don't cut any checks. I'm not a signer, but I reconcile all the bank accounts. We do have a separate girl in Logan, Kristen, that cuts all the checks. And then Jill signs those checks. So there's a separation of duty there. We have one school credit card that we have that's got Jill's name on it. And she approves the spending on that, but then she doesn't, she's not the one that finally, she's not the one that gives a fund. She does finally review the bank. She does review, excuse me, the credit card statement, but only after Kristen has gone through and collected every receipt. So for every charge on the credit card, we make sure that there is a receipt for every one of those charges. And then Jill will finally approve that as well. So, and then I'll look at those as well sometimes. So, that's kind of where we have that. We don't have any petty cash, so there's really no handling of cash. We don't collect any fees, as far as student fees. So there's nothing there to worry about as far as cash goes. So I think as far as organizational risk goes, it's fairly low. Of course, there's always some risk that someone could be taking something on some level, but we try to minimize that as much as we can with some of these checks and balances. So while we're talking about fees, I just wanted to also let you know that we don't collect fees. We'll talk about that in just a second here, just to reiterate that to the board. But I actually do need approval on this if anybody has any questions on it.
I have no questions.
I have no questions. I make a motion to accept it as it's been explained to us.
I will second that.
Perfect. And then all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, where are we, Alex?
That was it. That was the last.
Did we get everything approved then?
Yeah, I think so.
Mhm.
Okay.
So really,
What do you have? You want to? I think you're doing the principal's report. What do you have?
yeah, I'll do the. I mean, nothing's really changed a whole lot from when we talked at the end of May. We wrapped up summer school. We had 90 kids that we had identified as needing to come in and do credit recovery. Summer school to be on track for their senior year. We really target the seniors, just wanting to make sure if we can get credit earned in these 3 weeks of summer school, it makes their senior year so much more pleasant just because we're not as trying to cram as much in those, even though
Right.
it is 9 months, like it goes so quick. And over the last 3 years that we've been running this like intensive credit recovery in the summer, it's saved a lot of students from either the risk of dropping out or just feeling overwhelmed. So anyone that hasn't earned 16 credits going into senior year is identified. And then we also identify juniors or sophomores who are going to become juniors that need it too. So we're trying to get it so that 90 students isn't all seniors. So don't be afraid by that number. It's a combination, but we had 50 kids come and receive credit, which is awesome. We're always happy that even like the program would be worth it even if only 10 kids showed up. Because it just makes those 10 kids is something we don't have to deal with in the fall to be on top of and really 10 less kids is a major breath of fresh air. And so to have 50 come and do it and get credit, it's going to be like a good starting off on the right step for the coming school year for them.
That's great.
Every year we get kids that want to come and use our summer school just for the summer school and then to go back to their schools, but we limit it to students who are enrolled at Fast Forward, just because it's like a benefit, a perk of being enrolled at our
Right.
school, and our teachers
And our-
do a
Our
fantastic
students
job.
are our priority.
Yes, exactly. Now there are kids that will start with us at the end of term or in term 6. And when we sit down and go through that like induction process with them, uh, some kids are required to pass all their classes in term 6 as well as pass in summer school to be set up for the coming school year because we want to make sure that they're engaged and they're coming to us to earn credit and be successful. And
Right.
so, but every kid that we had that conversation with has done that. And so that's pretty awesome too. So the kids that are coming to us, they can tell that we're a different environment and that buy-in and respect is there. And that's really awesome to say.
That's great.
Especially with the influx of all the kids that we've had. And then, yeah, Philip Nelson is the one that coordinates it. He's our social studies teacher. He teaches U.S. government, U.S. history, and he runs a lot of the credit recovery programs at our school. And he's done a fantastic job. I know it weighs on him at the end of it every year, getting ready for summer school and like really planning and trying to make it interactive for the kids so that they will want to come and get that credit back. And so it's kudos to him. He runs a great program with that and his team. He kind of handpicks the teachers. Any teacher that wants to participate can, but he makes sure we have an English and math and a science teacher at least, so that all of those four, and then he teaches himself too, social studies. So all of our core content areas are covered, so kids can get credit. That's
wonderful.
that they truly need. So
Yep, that is great.
yeah, so that's kind of been the biggest thing is we've wrapped up that. And now we can settle into summer work, clean rooms, do carpets, and kind of prep for next year. So that's really all I have for the principal's report. And yeah, we're ready for a good 2025 school year. So it'll be a lot of fun.
That sounds good.
Great.
Any questions or things for me or Ryan before we head out on any of it?
No, I have no questions.
No, I don't either.
Perfect.
So we'll compile this email with the understanding that we will get Frank and Rich to email back, and that including in that email will be well, for sure the board training at this point. It'll have the areas of board training that needs to be done. And then maybe the conflict policy will come then, or might come in a separate email as well, but we'll see where we get on that. But we can just do a quick e-signature on that one. So Alex, do you want to be in charge of making sure that that comes from you, since most board correspondence comes from you?
Yeah, that sounds good. And when I send this out and I'll send it to everybody, it will have the video of this meeting, so Rich and Frank can watch that and review that. And then I'll probably do it in a Google form. That way all the votes are just right there, and I'll have it so each voting item that was proposed is there so that they can vote for the action.
That's great. So if you could do a little research on the training and send that out, and then include that in this email and then send this out. If you could do that in the next day or two, that'd be so helpful.
Perfect. Yep, will do.
Thank you, Alex.
No problem. Well,
thanks everybody.
Thank
you.
Thank you, board members.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So we'll send something out near the beginning of school for the next board meeting.
Okay. Sounds
good.
good.
Watch for that and come stop by anytime.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Alex.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.